we're going to step away from our live project for a few moments and have a quick chat about content prioritization, sitemaps, and wireframing. I'm going to use another example. This is for another template on our store called Galbraith Jewelry, and you may have guessed it, it's an online jewelry store. But first, we're going to rewind a little bit, and we're going to show how we can prioritize our content for maximum impact. Let's crack on. Over the last 20 years, I've been developing a process which includes a few Elwinisms. These are little techniques, little time hacks that I've integrated into my workshop routine for when I'm delivering websites, just so I can manage and mitigate the risk and ideally shave a little bit of workshop time off the end of the project. The benefits of this: we can over-deliver if we get the basics and the overall structure in place. If we strive to deliver the same quality or ideally better quality in less time, then that frees up so much of our resources to over-deliver elsewhere on the project. The result is a happier client, probably increased profit margins, and a slick operation. And my first tip to improve all of these aspects will be to have a content prioritization system. It's not very complicated. In my case, I've gone as simple as 1, 2, 3. Tier 1 is our top tier content. This is the most important, crucial information on our web page, and we can treat this on a page-by-page basis. So let's take the homepage of our jewelry store. We're going to have several elements that need to be slotted into tier 1 of our website. On almost all websites that have been designed professionally, we'll have a masthead at the top, often called a header. This section will contain your logo, menu system, and maybe some call to action buttons or even social media links. In years gone by, you'd see a search feature proudly presented in the masthead, but that's been restricted now to large e-commerce stores because in hindsight, many search fields were redundant. In fact, I've been guilty of adding a search field to a 15 or 20 page website in the past, and it's overkill and it takes up that primary cell space for other things. Okay, back on track. Hopefully we get an understanding of that masthead sits at the top of our tier 1 of priority. Then we have often what is called the hero unit. The hero unit is that large billboard that we have 3 seconds to get our message across. So think of an inner city billboard. You're driving past in your car and you've only got a glance to be able to absorb that message. Very much the same with websites, especially if you're in a competitive market, because visitors are fickle. If they go onto your website and they don't get the information quickly, or the website takes ages to load, or they have to hunt for the information that they want, there's every chance that they're going to go elsewhere and potentially to one of your competitors. If you don't like the idea of your competitors stealing your hard-earned customers, then you need to get your act together when it comes to prioritizing the content on your website. In addition, we might have some cultural messages, the company vision, key statement, a key target audience, either within the hero unit or making up another section of our hero unit. Sometimes we'll also put signposting into that tier 1 instead of a hero unit. It really depends on a case-by-case basis. I've done all of the above, and the more websites you design, the more you get a feel for the right flow for your first stab at it. If we back this up with regular reviews and testing to make sure that users are getting to the information that they want and they're not bouncing off the website. A bounce rate is where a visitor will bounce on your website and then bounce straight back off. Kind of like on and off a trampoline. We want to stop that at all costs, because if it's for our own website, we're not going to get any sales. If it's for a customer website, we're probably not going to keep the customer for too long if we're not addressing the main problems that we are trying to solve. Here in tier 2, we often have signpost links. Sometimes we'll have latest news or other main areas. In the live example with this project, we may consider having facts or statistics to back up the introductory message. And of course, if it hasn't fitted into the main tier 1 section of our site, we may have a shortened, truncated version of About Us. We're not having 3 or 4 paragraphs, what essentially is a full About Us page. Instead, we are having a very simple, short, single paragraph that summarizes the About section and potentially has a call to action button linking through to the About page from our homepage. Hopefully that makes sense. Then we move into tier 3. This is, as you'd guess, the least important section on our page. And the beauty of some of the content that we put into tier 3 is that it could go into our footer section. That means it appears on every single page. Information that could go into the footer would be your copyright notice, maybe a footer menu or links to privacy policy terms and conditions. Or we could stack the footer and go for what we call a jumbo footer, which is much deeper. It could include any of the following: a newsfeed, a social media feed, or an Instagram gallery. It could And in most cases, it does have additional contact information. So you don't need to hunt out a contact page to get the address, the email address, the button to leave an inquiry, or if the location is important to the business, a map to find head office. These are just some of the ideas that can go into tier 3. And then the decision you can make is it going to be only for this page, or is it going to appear on every single page? Sometimes we might want to also put brand partners, testimonials in this section, because we're spending the first 2 tiers of our content delivering on the who, the what, and the why, who we are, what we do, and why we do it. And then where and when can be covered then in that tier 3, and potentially the why in terms of why should someone do business with you. So we could add in testimonials, even video testimonials, into that tier 3 content, because we don't want to sell too hard at the start. We want to notify the visitor in terms of what we deliver, and then we bring it in line with positive reinforcement via testimonials, etc. These are not hard and fast rules. You can break these rules at any time. What I'd recommend is that you have a reason to break them every time that you do. If you can justify it in your head as to why you might be following a design trend, or you've seen something that you really want to integrate into a client's website, as long as you can justify it to yourself and then to the client, go nuts. So I'm going to give you that live example now for the jewelry company. And we start off with this simple map where we can see that the products have an extra level and product categories sitting underneath them. We also have other sections like heritage, news, sales and promotions, location, and deliveries and returns. So now I've got a list of features or elements that need to be on our homepage, or at least alluded to from our homepage. This is not a sitemap. We'll come onto the sitemap in a bit. So here we've got products, and underneath them we've got different types of products and categories. We've then got heritage, so the background of the organization, the why, news to show up-to-date information even when there aren't any new product releases, sales and promotions, making sure that these sales and promotions are highlighted. It may well be that we don't have a dedicated section for sales, but instead we have sales dotted in throughout the product listing that appear on the homepage. So we could prioritize certain products for our homepage, and then of those products, we can actively highlight which are on sale. Simple stuff, but it's a way of making sure that we're ticking all of our boxes without making our website over the top and cluttered. Additional information that's less important would be the location and deliveries and returns. Okay, I kind of spoiled it a little bit there by saying it's less important. Let's go on to the next slide, and then we can really see what hits tier 1 priority. As we can see here, we have highlighted products, jewelry, heritage, and sales and promotions. These are what need to be above the fold line of our website. As mentioned in an earlier chapter, the fold line is essentially the bottom of the screen. So whether we're looking on desktop, ultra wide screen, TV screen, mobile, tablets, the fold line will move slightly, but generally it's there or thereabouts. So what we're looking to do is make sure we identify what that fold line is on, say, 90% of screens, give or take a few pixels either way. And once we've got a rough idea of where that fold line is, we can then make sure that our tier 1 content sits above it. So now let's introduce tier 2 content. Watches for her, for him, custom jewelry and smithing. So these are sections that we can add in as signposting, or maybe even as a secondary hero unit on our homepage. They're not top priority, obviously, otherwise they wouldn't be in this section, but they're still important. And what's most important is we're keeping that flow through the website. If someone wants to jump straight through to another page, fine, no problem at all. But what we're trying to do here is to make our website so appealing that the majority of people will want to stick around for a little bit longer. The longer we keep them on our homepage, it's more likely that we'll keep them on our site as a whole for longer. We're using this time to reassure the visitor that they've come to the right place. And finally, let's add in our tier 3. Here we've got events, news, location, and then finally, deliveries and returns. This information is not overly important. It could simply be a case of adding deliveries and returns as a menu item within the footer of our site. And that's probably what we're going to do. Okay, now we've got all that information on the homepage. Let's have a quick glimpse of what our sitemap will look like. Some websites I won't even bother with a sitemap. It really depends on how many pages and how many levels that we need to navigate through. So for example, here we've got our homepage, which always sits at the top like a family tree. But generally what we'll find with our sites is that the homepage will actually sit alongside the About menu item. Then we've got About, Services, Products, News, and Contact. And then underneath the About section, we have History, Our Team, and Culture. So this is a generic menu system. There are many sites where I built this approach. Now, if we look at how we've designed it now for the jewelry store, we can see now that homepage is still at the top there, but we're leading in with jewelry, accessories, custom. Then we go for About further along the menu. The further to the left on the menu it is, the higher priority, with one exception. Whatever sits on the right-hand side of the menu, whether it's a call to action button, will stand out more than some of the others in the middle. It's subtle differences, but these can make a difference to make your website more accessible and easier to navigate. Now let's dive into the secondary level on the menu so we can instantly see that this is actually a larger website. In jewelry, we've got rings, necklaces, earrings, for her, for him. So we've actually bundled the for her and for him, which were standalone signposts on our homepage. They now appear underneath the jewelry section. And then accessories, we've got for her, for him as well. So we've got a decision to make. Do we link to jewelry for him and for her, and then accessories for him and for her from the home page? So actually have 4 call to action buttons in those 2 signposting sections, or shall we create another landing page that may not be on the menu for her and for him, which then signposts off to jewelry and accessory? Another option, we can combine the content for her page. Here we can have jewelry and accessories for her combined in one page with subcategories. We can then replicate that page underneath jewelry and accessories, as long as it doesn't become confusing where we're not adding too many pages and we've got visitors going down dead ends. Sometimes it can be beneficial, in fact often it can be beneficial, to have multiple routes to the destination. That increases the coverage and the chance of others finding that location. So internal links and cross-linking between sections is often a very effective way of keeping people on our website for longer. So finally, let's talk about wireframing. For me, a wireframe is a very quick sketch just to map down the ideas that I've got in my head onto some form of paper or chalkboard-based structure. Whiteboard, again, absolutely fine, to make sure I haven't forgot about it. Ken, our creative lead, will use his Remarkable tablet. So if you haven't seen the Remarkable tablet, they are truly remarkable in their simplicity. It's essentially like using paper, but it creates a digital backup of all of your illustrations. The main difference between this and an Apple Pencil and drawing on a tablet is that it feels like paper. And so for designers in particular, it can just feel more fluid and more natural. If you don't have a few £100s to spend at the moment, then good old-fashioned pen and paper will do the job for you. In the example that's coming up in a future video, I'll be using a chalkboard. It won't look very pretty, but the point is speed, because the way we design websites here at Pixelhaze in this day and age actually slots in straight after the wireframing stage, and we don't even need to show clients our wireframes, unless, of course, they're involved in the design process. We can jump straight to the conditioning and building process in Squarespace, and because rapid prototyping and building websites are essentially the same thing now in website builder platforms, we don't tend to need to worry about creating really nice interactive wireframes for our clients. We can show them the real thing. So back to our wireframe, let's have a look at the breakdown of the sections that we use to contribute towards a website. As mentioned earlier, our website generally starts with the masthead or the header section at the top. We'll have our logo top left or top center. We'll generally have a menu system, and then we'll have other shortcuts. For example, a pop-up cart area or social media icons. Occasionally, we might use an announcement bar. So an announcement bar allows us to market or give a clear announcement of maybe our office hours are shut over the Christmas holidays, and we want to make sure our regular customers see that. An announcement bar can be a temporary bar that sits across the top of the website that we can get that key message across. It's also great for special sales. In this particular example, we've got a product summary block. Summary blocks are a feature in Squarespace that allows us to take content from one location, for example, a blog or a store, and then feed that through as a series of call to action links onto our homepage or any other page. So here we can have the thumbnails for featured products, then the title of those products, the price, and then if you click on any of that, it will take you through to the full product page. That was our tier 1 content, if we remember. So that's why featured products there are above the hero unit. The hero unit is actually lower than it usually is on most of our designs, and here we're going to show a little bit more of the emotional appeal of the brand, the lifestyle, the culture, etc. feeding into that. And we've gone with a specific effect here that has a full image backdrop with a title or a caption, and then the circular image overlapping, breaking the boxy nature of the website. The circular image will be a zoomed in shot of one of the products, probably a ring. Then we've got our intro paragraph. This reinforces the culture of the business after making sure that we've got our featured products at the top because they're tier 1 priority, then having our hero unit also tier 1. Then when we go into the About Us section, in this case it's not as important, it's in our tier 2. Followed up by signposting, which will be the for her and for him, again providing another shortcut to the destination for the user. Then we've got our secondary hero unit, all about custom jewelry. And then finally, we've got our footer section. We've got contact information with a map to find us, and we've got a newsletter sign up as well. We want to make sure the newsletter sign up's in the footer because we want them to leave their email address regardless of the page that they're on. Finally, let's see it all assembled together. As I mentioned, I normally wouldn't go through the steps of creating it to look nice like this. It would be much rougher than this, but it gets the message across. I think it was about 6 months ago that I created these slides for another course, and I can memorize what was in my mind at the time. And I can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday without a prompt. You need to find your own route. You need to find your own techniques, but you really, really need to find a way of just sketching and mapping out your ideas before jumping on the software. If you jump on the software, there's two things that can go wrong. One, you can tie yourself up in knots, overly focusing on one area instead of building the overall structure and then going through a refining period. And later on in this course, I'll be showing you exactly how to do that. The other problem is if you get distracted halfway through and have to put the project down when you're halfway through the page, you're likely to forget some of the key components that go onto the site further down. That could get you into trouble with a client or miss a clear feature that needed to be in there. Moral of this story, enjoy it, sketch it, write it down.